Today, 911 says you're on your own. HR 5717 has new ideas for your Second Amendment rights. We have a lot more coming up. Thank everyone for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Welcome to Black Spring on this Monday. Hope everybody's doing well. And shout out to everyone that's in the stream. And as always, shout out to Chrysler Imperial H and To Not Be House. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me on this segment of Black Spring. If you could do me a favor along with the channel and hit the like button, the subscribe button, anything you can do for Channelytics, it also helps the channel. Now, of course, I'd like to start out with a bit of the thanks to the loyal subscribers. And of course, if you are looking for content creation, if you're looking for live streams, videos, networking, please take a look at the patrons. We have Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, the Angel Munez Variety Show, The Definition of Anarchy, Sandy K, Chrysler Imperial H, as well as our newest member, Little Miss Goth. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Shout out to everyone that's in the stream. Shout out to Jeff B. Jeff B, it's been a lifetime. Nice to see you. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you are this morning. So thank you so much To Not Be House. I really appreciate you for coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. So as I said earlier, we'll take a look at the first story that we have is we're actually going to deal with the 911 call, which is pretty staggering that some of the smaller municipalities or the smaller jurisdictions in America are starting to see more of these mobs taking over the streets. And so you'll see what happens there. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you guys so much for coming in. So first we will take a look at this particular story. Now, of course, we have a story that comes from the vetted source, the TNA, the New American, and it talks about, this particular story is entitled, On Mob's Side, the Government Tells Citizens You're on Your Own, but Don't Dare Defend Yourself. So I'm going to be bringing you a clip from the local news as well. Shout out to Killer Whale Channels. Thank you so much, Patrick Jane Forums and Theology Forums. So I'm going to bring you the real-time clip on that particular story. I'm going to bring you the call. Once again, I hope everybody is doing well. So we're going to have the call from the Fredericksburg Police. This is where this particular call is where this call was generated from. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Let me know if you have an issue with audio Appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Sarah Kirkpatrick.
Oops. Sorry about that, guys.
Was on the phone with our 911 center. A person jumped on her vehicle. Now, anyone that has heard this call can hear how frightened she was. Frightened for herself, frightened for her daughter. And as a mother myself, I can only imagine the thoughts that were going through her head. Now, since this unfortunate situation, we've had several conversations with the caller. We also had an officer open a criminal investigation the following day to identify the person that jumped on her vehicle. We're treating this investigation like we would any other criminal investigation in an attempt to identify them.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I will get to the actual call. Apologize for the technical difficulties here. So, but not to fear, we have another source here. So thanks so much for joining me on this segment. While I'm just working through that just for a second, I'd like to just give a shout out to everybody that's in the stream. Hope you guys are doing well on your Monday. I'm just highlighting a bit of these incidents. So let me just see who's in the stream at this time. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment. So actually what I'll do is I'll go back to that particular story, but that is a story that I will definitely complete that with you. Shout out to Jeff B, Killer Whale Channels, Patrick James Forums, To Not Be House, and Chrysler Imperial H. Thank you so much for all that you do, which we have quite a few stories to get to today, but no less, I will go ahead and take you to the next story. So I will come back to that other story. I do apologize for the technical difficulties there, but the next story is actually the 5717. This is an HR bill. So meanwhile, while we're dealing with all of the unrest and the tyranny and the terror in the streets, it appears that the 5717 actually passed in the House. So that's going to be a bill that's going to be affecting your Second Amendment rights. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I'm going to show you some of the details. A shout out to Britt's channel. Thank you so much for coming in. So we're just going to have a look right now. We'll take a look at this particular bill. Now, the bill is the HR 5717. It's called Extreme Gun Laws. Now, I don't believe that this bill is actually I don't think it would pass in the Senate. But of course, you can count on the Democrats to slide things in. The gun grab is real. I honestly, I think it's plausible that the gun grab is always in motion. And I've done a few videos previously on the amount of measures, underhanded measures that have gone into legislation, and even with the UN, the UN Arms Treaty, even from back in the 60s, in which they've always had an ultimate plan to disarm America. So I'm going to bring you the bill. This is coming from Congress.gov, the bill from the 116th Congress, House Bill 5717. So I'm going to highlight some of these. I'm going to put it on the screen so that you might see. You can read this at your leisure. I'll provide the description in the description box, but I thought I would just highlight a few of these items that if this bill were to pass, that these would be the restrictions that are coming forth. Shout out to everybody that's in. Thank you so much, Britt's channel. I thank you so much. I appreciate you for coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm sharing the screen with you right now. So this is your HR 5717. Okay, and here I'm just reading a little bit of the text here. It says this bill makes various changes to federal framework governing the sale, transfer, and possession of firearms and ammunition, among other things. Okay, the bill does the following, which I'm going to just highlight a few of these things, a few of these measures that are in place. Okay, so for one, it says the first one here says generally requires individuals to obtain a license. So you will need a license to purchase, acquire, or possess a firearm or ammunition. So there, it's only going to get, this is at the federal level. I'm not sure. I would imagine that it would affect, of course, nationwide, and especially in places that are already more difficult. Some of the blue states, most of the blue states already have either gun-free zones, or they have zones in which, but they have gun-free zones, but they have the highest amount of gun crime happening as well. So, and then the second point of this says that it raises the minimum age from 18 years to 21 years to purchase firearms and ammunition. Now, wherever you're from and wherever you are in the country, I know kids that learn to shoot guns, and I'm speaking from a kind of a small town, kind of a rural kind of an experience. I know kids that learned how to shoot. They got their first guns at 12, or either they were hunting. They started hunting with their dad. I mean, there's a lot of hunters in my family that, my cousins knew how to shoot guns, shoot rifles, shoot different types of guns, tactical weapons, when they were kids. So imagine going from that to going from 18, when you can actually purchase one, to having to wait until you're 21. So that's your age raise there. So not only do you have to purchase it, you got to get a license to purchase, acquire, or possess. But now you got to wait 3 more years as an adult, or even as a kid that may have been, even though you were not under the law, maybe you've been going hunting, you've got to wait an additional 3 years. So of course, this is more affecting the law-abiding citizen, because criminals they're not asking permissions. Criminals don't ask permission. Seems that the darker souls, or the darker personalities, they're the ones, and then even the darker ones don't ask for permission. They don't. Shout out to Chrysler Imperial H. Thank you so much. I will read your comment in just a second. So I put a couple more of these in here. So then it also establishes new background check requirements for firearm transfers between private parties. So can you imagine? I mean, it's a huge, bureaucratic mess that you would be in. So you'd almost have to plan. I mean, it would become a highly regulated privilege. It's generally what they're turning the Second Amendment rights into. Regulated privilege. And you would be delayed, of course, in acquiring your firearm. Okay, so then you have also the part in which requires law enforcement agencies to be notified following a firearms related background check that results in a denial. So this is all a whole bunch of flags that are going to go off. Apparently, this is a whole bunch of flags are going to go off when you go and try to purchase a firearm. Okay, so here again, it says it creates a statutory process for a family or household member to petition a court for an extreme risk protection order to remove firearms from an individual who possesses a risk of committing violence. Now, you talk about extremes, right? So whose freedoms are they curtailing here? I'm just curious. Maybe we'll do some polls or whatnot. Whose freedoms are they curtailing with these measures? Law-abiding citizens don't have issues with following rules. So I'm going to read a couple of comments here. Chrysler Imperial H says, I think it's a bunch of horse manure. Leave the Second Amendment alone. Democrats are our constitutional Democrats. Our constitutional right to bear arms, and the Democrats need to leave it alone. How many Democrats own guns? Well, it's funny you say that, Chrysler, because I'm going to bring you another. I want to follow this up with the type of hypocrisy that people are dealing with. You got all these people yelling, screaming. You got tons of people screaming and yelling, defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. So I'm going to follow that up in just 1 second. But Chrysler says, I'm not going to give them up, talk about the Democrats. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, with that said, there's one other thing I want to follow up. I think you guys might find it interesting what's happened. What's actually happened is I'm going to bring you another story in which the Minneapolis council members who voted to abolish the police hire private security. So you see the game here. You see the con. They talk you into getting rid of your reinforcement. Notice I said reinforcement. And I'm saying that in the sense of second, I would say that the police should be, subconsciously your second line of defense, with you having your First Amendment right as your defense. Your number one, your own right to bear arm. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the police would be a secondary. Okay, but then these people are beating the streets, defund the police, and guess what you've just done? You have left the vulnerable communities. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can't afford to hire a private police agency to come out and protect me, or if someone breaks into my home. So what they've done is they've thrown you to the wolves. They've thrown you to the wolves now because they've gotten you to pull your guard down. And that goes for the elderly, domestic violence, whomever. Now you have, if you don't own a gun, now you don't even have the option. All options aren't good options, but some options are better than none. An option is better than none. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick look. We'll just take a quick look at that story in just a second. But here I want to go back into this HR 5717, and I do encourage, whether I know by now many people are disconcerted with the Congress, because I do believe that they have a history of failed. They have failed. They have been misrepresenting the American people for decades. And this is no different. Okay. And you have no one, I have heard very few people speaking out against this particular 5717. Whether it dies in the Senate or not, you can see very well what a leftist rule would mean for your rights. All right. So I'm going to keep going here. So I'll continue here. It says it restricts the import, sale, manufacture, transfer, or possession of semi-automatic assault weapons and large capacity ammunition feeding devices. Restricts the manufacture, sale, transfer, purchase, or receipt of ghost guns, i.e. guns without serial numbers. Makes trafficking in firearms a standalone criminal offense. Requires federally licensed gun dealers to submit and annually certify compliance with a security plan to detect and to deter firearm theft. It removes limitations on the civil liability of gun manufacturers. Allows the Consumer Product Safety Commission to issue safety standards for firearms and firearm components. It establishes a community violence intervention grant program, and it promotes research on firearms safety and gun violence prevention. Okay, so here again, they would probably throw money. They're going to throw a whole lot of money at disarming you, exposing you, making you more vulnerable without a police, with all these, with more difficulties in attaining a gun, and criminalizing you for trying to defend yourself. So there's that's what you have it. I'm just saying, generally, you might want to take a look at these things. I would say, I know a lot of this may sound, archaic, but it's worth a try. I would suggest if you want, I'm not sure who your representatives are individually, but you would want to look into who are your representatives. Reach out to them in the Senate level, maybe even reach out to these clowns in the House and let them know you're not going to support that. Or maybe the people that actually love the country and the liberties that we do have, or whether you want to call them regulated privileges that we do have, that we've been downgraded to. Maybe you want to maybe we should be out protesting about all of the things that they are trying to slide in under the rug while all of this chaos is going on. That as soon as somebody does anything or pulls out or shows that they have a gun, they want to start yelling, oh, those are white supremacist groups. Oh, well, this person went to the Capitol and did this. Well, did they destroy any property? Did they harm anyone when they went there? Now, a friend of mine, I've heard him say, I'm not the originator of this. He says that technically, he says, well, if you're not if you do in a protest, he says, in a protest, if you're not armed, you're just complaining. Now that's his philosophy on protest. If you're not carrying anything, you are just complaining. So, in short, that's where they are on HR 5717. Now that's your House of Representatives. I'm sure we can take a look, dig a little deeper into details and see who's actually co-signing. Shout out to Alien Believers. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you for coming in. If you guys could smash the like button, that would be more than helpful for the channelytics. And I really appreciate you guys for being on the channel. Hope to have some announcements for you guys this week regarding some actual opportunities that are coming up. And I also have some messages that are coming up specific to the Patreon community. So you guys consider, if you haven't taken a look, please take a look or consider looking at the Patreon community. I really appreciate everyone for coming in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So I'm going to drop that link and try to restore that other story. Shout out to you, the Definition of Anarchy. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you. Hope you are doing well on this Monday. So with that, I'd like to take another opportunity to shout out to, what else do we have that came in? Shout out to Chrysler Imperial H Killer Whale Channels. Thank you guys so much. And of course, as always, I want to take an opportunity to shout out the patrons of the channel. With support, you guys make a difference. And you guys, with the technocrats and the Zuckerbergs, well, he's a technocrat too, with all of these tech companies that I think they are shoring up their levels on subverting and suppressing conservative voices, or anyone that wants to speak the truth or speak from the heart, whomever, wherever, whatever your sentiment is or whatever your convictions are, they are clamping down on channels. So know that you're valued, know that every one of you are valued. This is the nucleus of the channel. But of course, it always helps to have support from viewers like you. So we'll take just a second here to shout out the loyal patrons. Thank you guys so much for coming in on this Monday. I know this is a little bit earlier, but things come up, and I had something to come up, but I didn't want to miss it. And of course, we'll go back to a regular schedule going forward. This was something that had to be done earlier. So shout out to the patrons: Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, the Angel Muniz Variety Show, Definition of Anarchy, Sandy K, Chrysler Imperial H, and the newest member is Little Miss Goth. You guys are looking for content creators, and you're looking for networking, you're looking for live streams, you're looking for engagement. It will certainly be, I'm confident that you will find reciprocation and will be well received amongst these patrons. And thank everyone so much for coming into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So we're going to go back to some visuals. And we'll move on to, we're gonna go back to the 911 call, because we do have that call in real time. Of course, technology sometimes gets a little bit wonky, but we will not be deterred. We will just keep moving forward, and we will get to that material. So actually, I think what you ended up hearing was damage control from the Fredericksburg Police, which is not the order of logic there, but I will follow that up for you just a second, but I want to take you to something else. I do believe I think it's more than fair and more than plausible to say that many Americans in the Black community are starting to push back on BLM and the liberal lunacy that's following it. Okay, so what that says, we're going to go ahead and just take a quick look at a clip from the DC area, and this is involving either the attempt to rip down or to vandalize the Emancipation Proclamation statue. So you got people that are standing up that are saying, look, we've had enough of the hypocrisy, and you're not gonna do this, because what you're doing has nothing to do with saving Black lives. Once again, shout out to everybody in the stream. Just before I play that clip, shout out to the Definition of Anarchy. Shout out to Alien Believers. Shout out to Killer Whale Channels, Patrick Jane Forums, Theology Forums. Thank you so much for all that you do. Chrysler Imperial H, Jeff B. It's been a lifetime. Thank you so much for coming in. To Not Be House, Chrysler Imperial H, Brett's channel. I appreciate you for coming in. Good morning, Crazy Chick Sheena. Hope you're doing well. You're enjoying your coffee. That's nice. I have coffee, but it's out of my reach right now. But I'm going to bring you guys this next clip. It's just a bit of a testimony from a citizen of DC, and I really think people are getting tired of the foolish games and the guise of BLM right now. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So here we're going to go to DC just for a second. You guys hit that like button. Really appreciate you guys.
What is your message to Black Lives Matter protesters who are demanding to tear this down, and they are basically?
I say the Black Lives Matter people are full of shit.
All right, so he's guarding the Emancipation statue, apparently, or he's protesting the desecration of this statue, because it's not only, the thing about it is, I don't know, Black history and American history, there's still it's American history. It's still American history. Whether you, I mean, of course, there's no denying we get a watered down version on what they call Black History Month, which is it's to me, that's a sham. But this man of course, I apologize for the slight obscenity, but I think people are getting more than irritated, and maybe he felt that was warranted for his expression, and it was intense, but it was his choice. So, he's granted that. It's fine with me. And I hope you guys not too offended by that, but he does have a message. So I'll go on.
And the reason I say they're full of shit, because their money ain't saying Black Lives Matter. You come out here, you want to tear down statues, but how much of this Black history of DC do you really know? If Black lives really matter, how much of this history have you tried to learn about Washington, D.C.? Because we got Black history that's dying on the vine, sir, right here in Washington, D.C. So if Black lives really matter, what does your money say?
Do you think that it's true that most of these...
Shout out to everyone in the stream. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. Thank you so much. Come on, Read Unstoppable. How are you? Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Hi, Crazy Chick Sheena. I'm going to read a couple of comments here. Gary O. Youngkees, thank you so much for coming in. How are you doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Crazy Chick Sheena says, hope he's not a victim of identity politics on the Democrats' plantation. You know what? I would hope not, but I also would hope that, and I don't want to use the term wake up anymore, because I think we're beyond waking up. I think if many people haven't started to wake up right now, that maybe it's just not within you. Maybe it's out of your grasp to wake up to the con. Okay. It's a good con. Yeah. I'm going to be hyperbolic and say it's a 400-year-old con. Fact check me if you want, and you're free to do that. But I would hope that this man would not be attacked, because it's cannibal season. It's always cannibals. The left tends to eat themselves. They figure he's a Black man. What are you doing out here protecting these statues? And I think we're beyond. I think we are beyond the George Floyd, the straw man movement. Okay. I think the straw man movement is over. You've got all kinds of stories coming out about people, I'm seeing a mixed group of people attacking these statues. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not convinced that it's Black people attacking these statues, all of them. There are white liberals leading the charge. And so this man, he's peacefully protesting, because you could see he was holding a picket sign. He's holding a picket sign. But I imagine that there was a guard behind him wearing a mask. And of course, they've got it fenced up. Okay. At least I think Trump issued an executive order on those who are doing these things. They are going to face some justice. So, but then it's open season. When these people, because the people I think have been allowed to do what they've done, it's more of an open season on every American citizen. It doesn't matter if you're Black at this point. You're not safe. You're not exempt from the violence, from the terror. You're not safe from any of that. If you get in their way, if this man appeared to be in their way, what would they do to him? If he tried to hold him off, of course, there's a guard there, but I would imagine they would take no issue with charging this man, physically charging that man, if they thought they could overcome the guards and that gate. So I'm going to read a couple of comments. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I do know that it's early. And I appreciate you guys for coming in. If you could hit that like button for the channelytics, and it's really appreciated. Every single one of you are appreciated. I appreciate you guys for coming in. Shout out to Doran Van. Doran Van says, con is the word. Crazy Chick Sheena, thank you so much for coming in. And Chrysler Imperial says, no apologies necessary. You're showing video footage. Kimon Reed Unstoppable, thank you so much for coming in. I'm going to read comments here. Chrysler says there's a lot of people with their heads stuck in the sand, still need to pull their heads out of that sand. Chrysler, I give it, you got it. You're on it. Doran V says, yes, this wave of liberals tearing down whatever the hell they want are mixed. It actually is a negative indictment on a real Black liberty. Right. You know, the fallacies and the straw man arguments and to me, these are straw man movements. These are straw man movements. I mean, I do believe that Pelosi got up last week and starts talking about the bill in George Floyd's namesake, and then she calls somebody else's name. Oh, enough already. She probably didn't remember when it happened. She doesn't on a regular basis. She's referring to this man as something else. It's just lies and propaganda. I noticed that every corner you look in, it's painted with Black Lives Matter. If you go onto a site and try out a new product and say, oh, here's your trial period, here's a sample, you know, you can use this font or this page. Oh, and guess what? Here's your we support Black Lives Matter. It's really offensive that all of these companies have issued these statements. Like I can think of a T-Mobile issued a statement, a long, lengthy statement. I don't know if it's placation or pandering. It's equally just as bad. It's just as bad. It's not good. I'm not impressed. It's an offense. It's more of an offense at this point. So shout out to everybody in the stream. Come on, Reed, Unstoppable. Thank you so much for coming in. So just before we go back to the 911 call, let's take a quick look at the con. We talked about all these, everybody, not everybody. We've got the people screaming, defund the police, defund the police, defund the police, and including the municipalities. Okay, they're screaming, defund the police. All right, so let me tell you what that means. When you defund the police, they're going to hire their own private security, and it's going to be paid for with your money, taxpayers' dollars. You defunded the police, and now they're going to get what they want. They're going to get private security to protect them, their family, or their immediate friends that are around them. So with that said, I'll take you to that story. Shout out to everybody that's in the stream. I appreciate you guys for coming in and hitting that like button. Makes a difference in the channelytics, makes a difference in the life of the channel. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to you, Crazy Chick Sheena. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that story. So yeah, so here again, I'm gonna do some paraphrasing in here, moving around a little bit. Okay, so Minneapolis, this comes from the TNA, the vetted source, the TNA, Minneapolis council members who voted to abolish police hire private security. This is written by Luis Miguel. Okay, shouldn't they be hiring social workers to protect them? I mean, that's what they want to staff your streets with, right? After the Minneapolis City Council on Friday unanimously approved a proposed amendment that will allow the dismantling of the police department, it came to light that 3 of those council members hired private security at a cost of $63,000 thus far, or $4,500 a day to taxpayers. Okay? The amendment would remove requirements in the city charter for the city to maintain a police department. The 12-0 vote is the first step toward putting the issue to voters on the November ballot. Okay, the current charter language requires the funding of a police force proportionate to the city's population. The amendment would remove that language as well as another section on the police department. In place of the Minneapolis Police Department, the proposal would establish the Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention, which would be managed directly by the city council, giving its 12 members great say in law enforcement matters than they presently possess. Quote, using the bully pulpit, using the budget, using the chief's appointment to try to move things around a little bit, but I don't think we've had the kind of policymaking participation that we should have, said Council Member Cam Gordon. Okay, the amendment would also scrap minimum officer requirements currently in place, calling on the council to instead merely ensure they are, quote, adequately funding, end quote, the replacement department. When, quote, police, end quote, as such would no longer exist, there would be some armed, quote, licensed peace officers, end quote, working under a new division of law enforcement services, which in turn would be under the purview of the Director of Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention. Right. The current charter gives the mayor complete control over the police department, including hiring the chief. The new proposal, however, would reduce the mayor's role to that of nominating a director for the new department, who would then be appointed by the city council. So, you know, I don't know. How does that sound to you guys? How does that sound to you guys? See, I'm going to tell you, but here's the caveat. Now, I don't have family anymore in Minneapolis, but you have to know that who else do we know is from Minneapolis? Which congresswoman is from Minneapolis, ladies and gentlemen? Ilhan Omar. What are the chances that in the meantime, you know, why don't you just set up, what are the chances that they could put that Sharia law might be implemented? I mean, it's in New York. There's communities in New York that I've seen the footage. I mean, I don't know anybody that lives in Minneapolis. Is anybody in here from Minneapolis? That's going to be your majority. When they had these vigils and they had these memorials for George Floyd, that community came out and hosting many of these memorials, saying that they were doing all this in the name of George Floyd. So, you know, you had all kinds of, you know, collective pain being felt throughout the community. In fact, I tried to stream that particular memorial and it got pulled. Shout out to Kimon Reed, Unstoppable, says we need to, quote, police, end quote, police, the police force. Doran V, do you hear me ralphing? Shout out to you guys. So Doran V says only the public are the ones that end up worse off if we defund the police. I will never go to Minneapolis again. I used to love Minnesota. You know, I used to hear lots of great things about that city, the community. I mean, I've been there a few times, but I haven't spent any extensive time in Minneapolis. And can you get that mayor? Oh my God, that mayor, Jacob Fry. He is, you know, they don't have any leadership. So can you imagine Jacob Fry being responsible for hiring or him having direct hands in picking the police leadership? Or that council is yikes. I couldn't live there. You know, they are going to destroy that city, will be destroyed. So I'll close that one. I'll go ahead and finish that one out. Okay, so we'll finish it out. Let's see, we'll finish out. Okay, so the language of the proposal specifically stipulates that the director must be a person with, quote, the director must be a person with, quote, non-law enforcement experience in community safety and violence prevention, end quote, which could include, quote, public health and restorative justice approaches, end quote. The appointed director would then select the head of the Law Enforcement Services Division. It still remains unknown how the structure of this division would be different from the current police department. Council member Andrea Jenkins cautioned the council to remember that, quote, we can change the name of public safety, you know, the makeup, but until we really address racism, Nothing is going to change, end quote. The amendment is set to go before the Charter Commission this week. Mayor Jacob Frey has stated that he supports, quote, deep structural reform and a complete, quote, complete and a quote, complete transformation, end quote, of the policing system, but does not want to abolish the police outright. He criticized the amendment for its lack of clarity. All right, so that, you know, you guys have seen this guy, Jacob Frey, you've seen him in action. You've seen him amongst the public. You've seen him line dancing or cha-chaing. You've seen this guy, and all of his pandering has not worked. Okay, he's ineffective, and he does appear to be quite weak. Okay, so let me finish this one out. It says, quote, this amendment to our legal city charter does not provide the clarity. There are more questions I have regarding this amendment than answers, end quote, said Frey. Quote, if this amendment passes, we will still have police. If you vote for this, are you voting to abolish the police department? Or is this merely a cosmetic change where you add a bureaucratic layer, you change the name to peace officers and give them different uniforms, end quote. That's coming from Fry. All right, the Board of Police Officers Federation of Minneapolis also criticized the amendment, calling it, quote, irresponsible and a disservice to all Minneapolis residents. But see, the thing about it is, this is poor representation. Who's actually representing? They are being misrepresented. You've got one community that's coming forward. You've got a couple of communities here that seem to be running the roost or leading the charge. Okay, so we'll keep going here. This charter, quote, this charter amendment fails to clarify questions about what replaces the police department. I've said this a bunch of times. You reinvent the wheel with what? How it will work, and what actual steps will be done to address and prevent crime, end quote, the union's statement reads. Ironically, council members Jenkins, Philippe Cunningham, Alondra Cano have spent $63,000 in private security details over the last 3 weeks, ostensibly due to the death threats against them. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. When are these people going to wake up? Jenkins, meanwhile, claimed that she felt threatened by, quote, white nationalists, end quote, in the city. But she asserted that she has reported the alleged threats against her in Minneapolis because she has been preoccupied with, quote, the global pandemic and global uprising, end quote, over the death of George Floyd. Jenkins also claimed the threats have targeted her ethnicity, gender identity, and sexuality. Here it goes. She's transgender. So, of course, it's going to become all about her, right? She's the victim. When all else fails, you pull the victim card out. And she's three ways victim. You're discriminating against me because I'm Black. You're discriminating against me because I'm transgender. You're discriminating against me because sexuality. So, what is it? Gender privilege is about to come out of this. That'll be your next addition to the Webster Dictionary, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I'm going to keep going here. This is last on this. A spokesperson for the city said the security services are only intended as a bridge. A bridge. Where's your bridge? You guys have a bridge? Until other security measures can be put in place for members of the city council. So there's no bridge. There's no bridge mentioned for the citizens, but they're looking for a bridge for security measures that can be put in place for the members of the city council. All right. Sorry about that. It kind of turned into a rant. I injected a little bit of drama in there. I added to the flavor. Okay. So Kimon reads, Unstoppable says, what? No experience required to join. Oops, sorry. Chrysler Pierce says, there's still a lot of places in Minnesota that are still good. Doran V says they want someone with no experience. Yes, I'm going to provide this in the link. I need to do that a little bit more consistent for you guys. I'll put this in the link for you in the stream. Chrysler says you defend the police. You have a lot of rent-a-cops. Shout out to the rapper 10,000. Thank you so much. 4,500 Minnesota security guards. You guys, please keep in mind to hit that like bell or the unlike bell. Subscribe button. Anything you can do helps out with the channel. I appreciate you guys so much. See, I'm sorry, rapper. I was on your comment there. Okay, so Crazy Chick Sheena says, ask the rappers to patrol Chicago or Los Angeles, California, and see how that works out. All right, so let's see, what else do we have? I'm going to jump down here. I think we need to have healthy skepticism about those that claim they are victim. Shout out to you, Doran V. So, it's wonky as ever. It's only going to get wonkier. We got wonky personalities that we're dealing with, and they're very corrupt. This is very much very corrupt. Shout out to you. The definition of anarchy says city council has more police power. Disaster. Yes. You see what you see? Yeah. And then, all these other cities are going to get, if they successfully do, you're going to get an extreme. Every time you ask to go and do something, you're going to get worse than where you started. You're going to be worse off than where you started. Come on, Read Unstoppable says they want gender laws to cover up something else. Cover up something. Yeah, there's a lot there. I think there's a lot that's going to be revealed here. So shout out to everybody in the stream. I really appreciate you guys for coming in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. You guys make the difference here. So also with that said, I'm going to take you, we're going to go back into the 911 call. All right. So here's the other thing. Here's the other caveat. I didn't really want to go into this particular, into this HR. We could talk about the other bill, the HR 7120. We could take a look at that. And I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis on that from what I understand, that that new 7120 bill is the policing act that they're trying to pass. They're going to be, of course, they're doing the fluff, it's short sensitivity training. You're going to end up with more government overreach on that situation. And, I've said this before, one step closer, they're going to end up nationalizing the police, the left. And then that's closer to a dictatorship when you do that. So, we've got a lot of issues going on. A lot of things are being pushed under the rug, pulling things over our heads with all the chaos in the streets, the growing chaos in the street. They are tainting all of the American cities with these BLMs and Antifas. And you notice you haven't heard that much. I haven't heard much about Antifa in a while. But okay, what did you do? Your BLM steps up, right? Stepping up their game. All right. So I'm just going to keep going here. I have another clip for you. And we will get back. I will get back to that call. So we have a couple, since we're talking about the Second Amendment, I want to show you another clip. Shout out to you, Luciano. I really appreciate you for coming in on this segment. Definition says, I'm for dismantling the police departments as they exist now, but not in this manner. Okay, Crazy Chick Sheena says, how about defund Planned Parenthood, not cops? Stop killing innocent life for your agenda, Democrats, leftist lovers. Thank you so much, Luciano, for coming in. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate everyone. So we're going to take a look at a couple who said, you know what? Enough of this. Enough of the fantasy. Let's deal in reality. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Really appreciate you guys. So I'm going to be sharing that clip with you. Hope everybody's doing well. So I'm going to put the audio. If you have any issues here, let me know. All right, so this clip comes from a couple in St. Louis who defend their home with a firearm after the protesters entered their neighborhood. All right, hope everybody's doing well. All right, you guys notice how you get all of these kids standing around with cell phones, video, and all this footage. The wife had a pistol, and the husband, I think, had like an M16 or whatnot. And this is the only thing that this rabid group of people understand. They didn't come anywhere near those people. But I tell you, I bet they would have approached their home had they not been standing out front, armed to the teeth. It's very sad. It's very sad. So I guess that was a part of the, what was it? The Eat the Rich weekend? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's on Facebook, you know, Eat the Rich weekend is what it was. I know that Beverly Hills was a part of it, but I had no idea that they were also hitting. I would imagine that Facebook is not curtailing or quelling their abilities to organize. They're empowering them. You've heard many of these media hacks saying, "Oh, we support what you're doing," you know. I even saw somebody on. It's amazing. It's amazing what you're able to witness. So let's see. We have Doran V that says, "I think there are better solutions than defunding." Crazy Chick Sheena says, "Wait, oh my gosh, they are going into communities, starting crap now. Oh my gosh, that's totally not good." Absolutely not, Crazy Chick Sheena. So that's. I'm going to play that clip again. I'm going to try to enlarge it. But that couple has a beautiful home. I don't know what their professions are, but who knows? You know, I mean, in Beverly Hills, you have what? You have black and white, and if Hispanic, you have I would imagine that community is diverse, right? Now, wait until you see them start screaming, "We need the police! We need the police!" You know, it's fine if you know, if the people that are catching crumbs, you know, are losing their things and their homes are being destroyed. But what are they going to do? They've got walls. What, Pelosi's got walls around her San Francisco place, pretty high. It's a high wall. Maxine Waters has a wall around her place. I mean, these mayors, they're armed to the teeth. So what are you going to do? Defend your city police, and what are you going to do? See if they'll give you some private security as a bridge when they come to eat your home. Okay. All right. So we have, let's see. All right. So Doran V says, quote, "Eat the rich," and quote, "I'm way behind on their terms." Yeah, it's, you know, they come up with stuff all the time, you know. It's nonstop. You know, they've got a direct line to Merriam-Webster, and then they've got all these lexicons of who knows, you know. So I'm going to play that clip once more, and then I'm going to move on to I'm going to get back to the 911 call there. Thanks everybody so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I really appreciate you guys. So, okay, you can just observe what you're seeing outside. You know, these are all young, like I said, it looks like students. The college public square. All right, so there you had the visual there, and you had, of course, a lot of people filming with their phones, and you have people that are gesturing and carrying on outside, staying off of those people's property. They're staying off the grass. They didn't come any closer, because I really believe that the guy meant business. I really believe that. So with that said, I'm going to go back to the original, go back to the mob rule. You know, your city government in Fredericksburg. This is Fredericksburg, Virginia, I believe. So we'll go back into that particular story. All right. So here I'll give you some context here. This comes from the TNA, the vetted source. It says, quote, "We can't do anything, ma'am. The city told us this is a sanctioned event," end quote, said the police dispatcher to Virginia and Tara Durant. Durant had called 911 frantic because she'd been stopped in Fredericksburg by violent protesters. I'm just thinking, I'm really getting sick of the use of the word protesters. That's a fallacy. When you're violent, violence is not protesting. Some of whom were jumping on her car, okay, incredulous and fearing for her 5-year-old daughter who was with her. Durant could be heard in the recording exclaiming, quote, get out of my car. And then, quote, "they're on my car." And the dispatcher's response, apart from offering the advice, quote, "don't hit anyone with your vehicle," end quote, she told the mother. Can you believe it? Can you imagine? Quote, "yes, ma'am. We would suggest you call up City Hall to let them know about your frustrations," end quote. Well, see, it's not frustrations. It's crime. So now crimes are frustrations. Assault is just a frustration. But see, she would have been punished because, you know, look at her giving her a directive, telling her, "don't hit anyone with your vehicle." Don't hit anyone with your vehicle out of frustration, because it's just a frustration. You know, they're on your car. They're in your car. It's just a frustration. Crazy Chick Sheena says, "Wild Democrats." 6. I'll keep going here, and then we'll get you that clip. All right. Of course, the police were being handcuffed by the city government. Given this, it's, quote, "not surprising that Fredericksburg Mayor Mary Catherine Greenlaw offered an apology." What is surprising is whom she offered it to. The mob. She offered the Mary Catherine Greenlaw offered an apology to the mob. Police, after all, had tried to disperse them while they were rioting. Quote, "I am personally sorry," Greenlaw consequently stated. Quote, "I apologize to those who went through this fearful experience," end quote. "Yes, how dare the law try to spoil their mayhem." Ladies and gentlemen, is that twisted enough for you? Is that twisted for you? Okay, it says, "unfortunately, no law, green law, is hardly alone. Democrats across the nation have not only allowed mobs to tear down statues reflecting our culture, but have also sometimes even tactically encouraged them." Then there was the NYPD cop heard on audio joking, quote, "Welcome to New York," when discussing a 911 call from a woman complaining that her neighborhood was like a, quote, war zone, end quote, with gunshots ringing out. You know, it's pretty gross. I'm gonna bring you some of that footage. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. Thank you guys so much for coming in, and thank you so much for those of you who did hit the like button. I really appreciate that. For the channelytics, you guys make a huge difference here. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be bringing you those calls, and I'll be happy to provide you with those links as well. So I'm not sure if anybody here is from the Virginia area, but it's definitely everything that we know is being hijacked at this point. Being hijacked. It's being manipulated. We've turned into a nation of straw man. And at times, I'm telling you, it feels like we're losing. I don't know about you guys, but that's what it feels like. Feels like losing. Just give me one extra second here. A couple of extra seconds here. I apologize. I'm going to show you. We're going to bring you that clip here from the call, from the Fredericksburg call. As of course, it made it to Twitter. And it looks like we had the damage control coming from the Fredericksburg police department after this was all done. So this is, I assume that was, it's pretty sad. The dispatchers are more than irresponsible. It's just really a gross situation. So I'll go ahead and play that for you, and then I'll get to the call.
Hi, my name is...
Shout out to everybody that's in the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
It's Sarah Kirkpatrick, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Fredericksburg Police Department. Recently, we've received several concerns from people about a 911 call that was made public, where a woman and her child were driving downtown and they were met by demonstrators. While the woman was on the phone with our 911 center, a person jumped on her vehicle. Now, anyone that has heard this call can hear how frightened she was, frightened for herself, frightened for her daughter, and as a mother myself, I can only imagine the thoughts that were going through her head. Now, since this unfortunate situation, we have had several conversations with the caller. We also had an officer open a criminal investigation the following day to identify the person that jumped on her vehicle. We're treating this investigation like we would any other criminal investigation in an attempt to identify this person. We've also made adjustments in our communication center. If a person dials 911 for concern about demonstrators in the roadways, they will be notified that an officer is staged 1 block away, not only to divert traffic, but also for their safety. If you express concern for your safety, you can be certain an officer will respond to assist you. Whether you're in the downtown district or anywhere in the city of Fredericksburg, we are here to serve you.
So if that wasn't rich enough for you, I'm going to bring you the next clip with the actual call. Okay. Now, it's they're coddling and placating these people, they go from everything, they call them everything except for rioters, looters, or, some people are calling them anarchists. They are calling them that. But I'm going to go ahead and show you the call now. I apologize for the delays on it, but you'll see the actual call coming through. And you'll see the text for the call. Now this is I had the local source, but then I managed to grab this one, and you can see the transcript of the call on this one. So thanks so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. This one is going to come from Tucker. Tucker has the call as well, so we'll take it from him.
Terrified, Tara Durant called 911, and here's the response she got.
They're on my car, right? They're on my car right now.
So we would suggest you slowly drive through the area. Don't hit anyone with your vehicle.
I cannot get out of here, okay?
You have to be patient, but I'll let the officers know, okay?
But are you serious?
The
You
city
guys
told us
cannot.
that we can't do anything, ma'am. The city told us that this is a sanctioned event.
Get out of my car. You know, this is going to get dangerous. I got a kid here.
Yes, ma'am. We would suggest that you call up City Hall to let them know about your frustrations.
Get
We're all very
out of the
frustrated.
road. This is getting scary. They're on my car. They're on my car. And I got a little girl in the car crying. Are you kidding me?
They're on my.
And you see what you're gonna go. You see what you're gonna go through. I mean, they had no regard for this woman and her child. Okay. Now I've even seen footage in which in Atlanta they will pull you out of cars. They're starting to pull people out of cars. So if they decide they want to pull you out of the car, 911 is not going to help you. Now I don't know. I'm not familiar with this Greenlaw mayor, but she's a disaster. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a feminist basher or all these little wordsmith that anybody might want to come up with. But is it ironic that many of it seems to be that there are more, the women are leading some of the most egregious and most lawlessness it's under the leadership of these women, these liberal women. The mayor of Seattle, this woman in this small town of Fredericksburg. You've got, of course, I'm not even going to the mayor of Atlanta is, of course, she's a female. Okay. So you've got a huge faction of women leading that are not leading. They are petting these people on the head and they're letting them run amok. And they're coming to people's homes now. I showed that clip with the guy with the M16 and all of this. It's time, what the preppers have been doing for years. Well, it looks like it's time to cash out. It's going to be time to cash out sooner than before you know it, because you don't have any leadership. So I'm going to read a couple of these comments here. Definition of anarchy says we'll continue to lose as long as we believe in the left-right paradigm lie. Doran V says they want us to feel overwhelmed. We are, in a sense, in a real civil war. The Democrats want to topple everything and create chaos to then put in their own agenda. I can see that. I can't say that. I would say that there's a vast majority is Democrats, but I will say you have neocons and you have rhinos. That faction, they're not exempt in my eyes. I think the con is up on them too. You have plenty of people that are not. They are rhinos. They are Republican in name only. Okay. Just look at I can just this is maybe not a good comparison, but just look at the justices. Now that was the next story that I wanted to cover. Okay, so we do have a conservative majority on the federal judges. Okay, so there's 200 federal judges. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you guys. Stop this one. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I really appreciate every one of you. for coming in for this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I want to share just a bit of this clip. Now, this is going to come from the Heritage Foundation. There is no audio on this one. So I just want to kind of draw a point and just draw something from this one. Okay, so we have a bit of a rolling, a document, a record, or a bit of a journal on what's happening on the judicial appointments here. So this one comes from June 25th. I'll read both of these. Okay, so so we have a Heritage. This is a Heritage. The Heritage Foundation, or the Heritage Group, congratulates the Trump administration on 200th judicial appointments. Quote, one of the president's most important duties is to nominate highly qualified men and women with sterling credentials and a demonstrated fidelity to the Constitution to the federal bench, confirming 200 judicial appointments, including 2 Supreme Court justices, and filling all pending vacancies on the federal courts of appeal is a remarkable achievement, end quote, said the Heritage's John Malcolm. Okay, I'm not quite done there. So we're going to go here to June 26th, in which this is from the Heritage perspective. Okay, this is the Supreme Court, the U.S. 101, the clerking for Justice O'Connor. Okay, I'm not gonna read that one. I'll put that one in the link for you guys. But the thing about it is, you've got these appointees, and we've already seen Justice Roberts seems to be running the roost. And keep in mind, Roberts was appointed by Bush. Okay, he was the youngest, and he was named the chief. And he's coined himself as conservative, claiming that he has a hands-off approach. Well, I don't believe that for a second. He would be a rhino justice. He would be a globalist. He's legislating from the bench in favor of the globalist. Look at the latest rulings, in which, you had the ruling on DACA. That was an executive order, which we're not saying that story is to its conclusion. That ruling is okay. It's a temporary fix for the DACA. Okay, but that came from Obama. That was an executive order. It was supposed to be temporary, right? Okay. And then you had the other on the LGBT community on their employment. They cannot be, from what I understand, they cannot be released or fired. So you've got all of these issues. And I tell you, I anticipate that the next issue is going to be abortion. I did cover a story in which in Tennessee, you had the mayor of Tennessee, the governor of Tennessee. They passed what is Tennessee's version of the heartbeat bill, and the radicals, they went crazy. Okay, they started burning a flag and invoking a new world. See, I probably have that clip for you, but if you see the videos, you can see that they said that he disrespected their constitution. You notice how their constitution, which is they're radicals. They're always accusing somebody else of what they're doing. Okay. And they're basically saying that they are not going to stop. This radical faction is not going to stop. So I can tell you a little bit more about that. But there again, you've got all of these radicals attacking the values, the right to life. If we're concerned about life, why are you saying that America, you imply that America is only good if Planned Parenthood can continue destroying lives? And not only Planned Parenthood, it's not only are they destroying lives, there's byproducts. They've made a whole nother industry out of the remains from these children, from these bodies. I have another video in which there's been testimony. They get orders for these children's parts. It's the darkest and most disgusting thing that's happening. They're murdering people, and they will not stop. And they are willing to destroy everything so that they can continue to destroy lives. It's disgusting, it's despicable, it's evil, it's dark. You're not that far from, that was black magic. It's a black magic demonstration that they were doing once the bill passed. They want a new America, they said. A new America where you can continue to abort babies. Okay? That's what they want. And they did their little hocus pocus and burned the flag. Shout out to everybody in the stream. Come on, read. They want people to believe in the police department. Let's see. Crazy Chick Sheena said, it's really sad they fool so many Americans. I really believe that we're dealing with, some people have said this is a spiritual battle. There is a lot of darkness going on. It's almost like they're craving. We're saying one thing about death, but we are doing another nonstop. So just hang on one second here. Appreciate everybody for joining me in this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. On that note, I will take a moment to shout out the patrons again. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I really appreciate you. And here again, if you're looking for live streams, video content, networking, look no further than some of the patron channels here. We have Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, the Angel Munez Variety Show, The Definition of Anarchy, Sandy K, Chrysler Imperial H, and the newest member, Little Miss Goth. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So many issues, so many, it's overwhelming. Let's see. Kimon Reed Unstoppable says, people can't mess with the Democratic mafia. I mean, but you know, the media is also working hard in favor of the chaos and the destruction. You know, you can find any of them co-signing to, you know, we're going to play this game, demonstrators versus the protesters. Does anybody know the difference? I can't tell. No, demonstrators and protesters versus looters, rioters, and people acting with criminal intent. Suspects, criminal suspects. Yeah. Democrats, mafia. Yes, they are. It's a machine. But I'm telling you, this is not this left progressive faction. You know, they've been doing this for years. They're just not hiding it anymore. They've been doing these things. They've had these agendas for years. And and if you want to know where the framework comes from, look at the UN agenda 2030, 2021. It's all there. It's the same concepts. The next thing is going to come up is these bills. They've been pushing the HR 5. That's the Equality Act. Okay. They've been pushing that for a long time. The HR 9 was that Paris Climate Agreement that we got out of. Trump got us out of the Paris Climate Agreement. I don't understand why we're still in the UN, because as long as we're still in the UN, They have an office. The UN has an office in New York. I think they've occupied a building in Salt Lake City, and basically told the press, you're no longer in the US. You cannot film. You cannot record in here. You are no longer in the US inside of this building. And of course, it was staffed by blue hats. So, I just think that everyone should be aware that if Joe Biden is to be successful in this election, he will be controlled. And he already said, I don't know if you guys remember, Beto O'Rourke. He said, oh, this guy's he's going to help me take the guns. He's going to assist me in taking the guns. So they've been trying to come after the guns for a long time. See, and even though it's, Biden is dangerous because he will be manipulated, or his VP will be exalted to, she'll be exalted to president. Let's see, shout out to the rapper 10,000. Hard to convince normies about Democrat Marxism and the UN agenda. They are supporting Antifa now. You know what? What is it that you can plant seeds, or you can try to get these people to drink, get a horse to drink water, or all these little things. But they're all gonna, these protesters or demonstrators or whatever they're calling themselves these days, they're all going to end up sacrificed. Once they're useless. That's what's going to happen. Shout out to the rapper 10,000s. It says, check, did you see the meme of Joe Biden and Aunt Jemima together sniffing her and saying, you ain't... No, I didn't see that. But I will say that I think it's important that wherever you can, if you can reach out to anybody, any of these representatives, and just to see what you get back. Unfortunately, this is a system that we have. We have Democrats, we have Republicans. That's what we have. And this is an election season, and I don't know, I'm not sure how they're coming out with how some of these elections are turning out. But I do know that they've caught quite a few people in these these mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballot fraud is being exposed. That is certainly being exposed. So there you go. Crazy Chick Sheena says the UN is useless. What are they really for? It's a communist organization. And I've had people say, okay, we're not post World War II right now. So I think that they're obsolete. But I do believe that their ultimate goal, I do believe that the goal in turn was, more of a world government, and they're pushing that in, via on every, as far as they can. All your agendas, your 16, sustainability clauses, if you're not dealing with sustainability, equality, and, I think the next issue coming up is regarding whether or not men will be able to go into restrooms. I think that's a part of the locker rooms. I think that's all of that's going to be. They want that to be legal. Okay. They want all that to be legal. So if you have, and I think it's really going to send a lot of people are going to think twice about sending their kids to these public schools. The rapper says, I tried to get my father to see the proof that CNN fabricated the Floyd video, but he played the race card in the topic. Floyd's past makes a huge difference. Well, you know, they're never going to talk about, like I said, I'm going to tell you something that I am not. And I am not a shock pad. I don't absorb shame for people that commit crimes. I don't absorb guilt for people that commit crimes, even though they're the same background as me. I don't absorb the ridicule. I don't absorb the public opinion. I don't absorb any of that when someone's committing crimes. Because if I go out here and commit a crime, I need to take all of the heat. I mean, all of the heat. Because I knew the risk. I'm not above the law. I don't believe I'm above the law. If I do a crime, you know, and I said this, I think I said this last stream, you know, I wasn't raised like that. If anybody might seek to absorb some shame or ridicule for me, it might be my family members. But do I think the entire race of people, do I think everybody that shares the same background as me should absorb the shame, the ridicule? I don't care who is talking about it. I don't care who's talking about it or what their background is. It just doesn't, I mean, we used to say right and wrong, the difference between right and wrong. If I do something wrong, then unfavorable sentiment and unfavorable ridicule and shame is coming to me, and it comes to me rightfully so. That's just what it is. And those things deter people. At least they used to deter people from going out doing things that are wrong. I take responsibility when I do something wrong. If I get pulled over, give me the ticket. You decide. If something happens that I don't think that, if something that happens that's not within the jurisdiction, or that's something that out of the oath of the officer, okay, then I will deal with that on a legal side. But I want to live to see what happened. I want to live to continue to get where else I was trying to go that day. But I am not the pad that absorbs somebody else's problems. I am not. That should not be cast on an entire group of people because I did something that I wasn't supposed to do. I don't believe in that. And in fact, any of my family members, if you do something wrong, why did you do it? You know this is what's coming to you, right? You know. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't expect a whole group of people to have to absorb unless they did something illegal, or unless they caused something that was undue. If it's unjust the way they acted, then they should be punished. But all of the things that surround it, the surrounding dynamics around that, I take responsibility for my actions. Even if it costs me money. If it costs me money, that's taking responsibility. But do I want my friends to go out here and try to absorb some portion of it? No. You didn't do it. If it was wrong, I might see you defending me. But don't act on my behalf if I did something wrong. Don't act on my behalf. And don't pretend that it wasn't wrong. Don't pretend. Now there again. Like I said, I wasn't, as they say, I was down home. I wasn't raised like that. I wasn't, and many people were not. But it seems to be culturally expedient or something. I don't know what this culture is. I don't know what it is. But I tell you, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy and it's unsustainable. It sends the wrong message to an entire generation of people. What do they say? What do you? I've heard people say, "Man up, put your big girl whatever's on." I can do that. I will do that. I've done it. But like I said, but see, the thing is, these things are not, these sentiments and these arguments are not original, because it's the same kind of thing that happens in the classrooms. It's the same thing. As soon as someone, I had a difficult time, you'll have a difficult time trying to get people to be proactive and see that you're going down the wrong path right now. You're going down the wrong path. If you do this again, you're going to alternative school. But you know that because you've already been. But now you want to go on. Now you want to go for something that you did on my watch. But you find a way to demonize me because I'm not letting you do it. Because I won't let you terrorize everybody else in the classroom, or I won't let you harm yourself. That's my responsibility too. So shout out to everybody in the stream. You can't, I've never known anything other than a consequence for doing wrong. I don't know anything else. And I've never known anybody in my family to stand behind anything that was wrong. I've never known that. But I also don't expect anybody to be the socio-emotional director when I do something wrong. I don't know if you have that luxury. If you have the discretion, do you have the discretion to be a socio-emotional director for me when I do something wrong? Do you have that? Is that a violation? Is that a violation of the oath that you took? So there you go. I'm going to read a few comments here. The rapper says, check out staff, Dr. Vodi Bacham, Dean of Theology at African Christian University, on Black people are the most free people in the U.S. AA from the Blaze TV. Does anybody here subscribe to Blaze TV? I don't know if you have any insight on that. I mean, Blaze TV seems to have quite a few things that I enjoy watching, or it seems to be, they're informative, but then it's also the environment's casual, but I think that they bring on, they have it's a fresh presentation, but I also think that they deal in as many facts as they can, there's a lot of disinformation campaigns going on. And sometimes you fall victim to that. No matter how many years and creds you've got behind you, whether it's journalism or not, there's a lot of intentional disinformation campaigns out there. This is Luciano says, a cornered animal is a desperate animal. What we're seeing is desperation from the left. They know the end is near for them. We're winning. So we'll see. We're running out of, look at this year. What is it? June? It's almost the end of June. It's the end of June, July. Okay. We're in July. We're what? It's under 4 months. I would say we're just under 4 months. This is the rapper says, Dr. Bacham argued that the left's narrative that Black Americans are the most depressed Black people in the world is far from true. Well, if you think that's amazing, you should see what Tim Kaine said, that the United States basically invented slavery. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. He made something ridiculous, outlandish statement like that. And I'm just thinking, that's so disingenuous and unintelligent. But they expect people not to self-educate. That's also, they expect people not to self-educate. They're like they suck up everything that comes out of the Democrats' mouth. And I think, what was it? Tim Kaine was Hillary Clinton's VP back in 2016. That was a joke. You actually think you can convince an entire nation of people that the U.S. invented slavery? What about the Romans? I mean, there's more examples, but can you believe this stuff? And people wonder why people don't know history, because the liberals manipulate and rewrite everything. Somebody heard that and they probably believe it. What they call it, low information voter. Let's see, we can do that another day, but Crazy Chick Sheena says exactly, self-accountability is best. I agree. Not a victim is not a victim. This victim, not. Let's see. I've always owned up to my own wrongdoings. Always. I mean, you don't have a choice. I mean, you don't have a choice. I mean, you can run into a sword. But but you know, it's more work to defend to defend a lie than it is just to deal with the consequences. You did this. Well, you know, and I think about the term slavery, you know, it's you can be enslaved in many ways. In many ways, some people think we're all debt slaves. I mean, look at the debt. Look at the transgenerational debt. Can we actually really pay that back? Who do we owe it to? I mean, nobody has the right to make you a slave. I mean, as a free people, we all assume that we're free people. And the Constitution is supposed to be a contract between us and them. They're supposed to govern for. That means we tell them what to do. But then when they say of, they're telling us what to do. Yeah, Tim Kaine is, I don't respect that guy. Not as a politician. I mean, yeah, he was kind of the invisible VP. So yeah, but you know, we can do a history lesson on, of course, slavery. But I mean, anybody that believes that, so once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. I'd like to take a moment to shout everyone out that's in the stream. Thank you guys so much. You make a huge difference. And I hope to have an announcement for you guys by the end of the week. It's one that's been delayed a little bit, but it's taken a little bit of coordination. And I think the resources are there, but I'll have an announcement for you soon. So I'm going to start from the top of today's stream. As possibly there will be other streams also. This is one that I wanted to make sure that I got in the stream and that I didn't have to start at like a noon or something. But tomorrow will be the regular 10 o'clock stream. probably also stream. It's possible I will stream also on Wednesday as well. So it'll be 10 o'clock for both of those days. So I'll probably just go ahead and put the 10 o'clock tomorrow as well as Wednesday in for sure. And shout out to Jeff B. Thank you so much for coming in. Shout out to Tanapi House. Thank you guys for hitting that like button when you came in today. Shout out to Chrysler Imperial H. Shout out to Killer Whale Channels. Shout out to Brett's channel. Thank you so much for coming in. It's possible I may go live again today. I may go live tonight. I just needed to change this schedule, just change today's schedule just a little bit. But I will be adding night streams because I did get a response from you guys, and you just said keep an eye out on those. But you know, the 10 o'clock schedule, Monday, Tuesday, and possibly Wednesday will be regular. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on the morning, on the earlier time. But then there'll be some other nighttime streams as well. But the announcement that I'm bringing, I will be putting that out, and of course, giving you the time and information on that. Shout out to Killer Whale Channels, Patrick Jane Forums, Theology Forums, Alien Believers, The Definition of Anarchy, Crazy Chick Sheena, Kimon Reed, Unstoppable. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Gary L. Young Keith Jr. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys for coming in. Doran V. Shout out to you. Shout out to the Rapper 10,000. I really appreciate you guys. Let's see. Who else am I missing here? Oops. All right. Doran V, I got you in there. What else do I have? And shout out to, it's going to be 10 o'clock tomorrow, 10 o'clock Wednesday. And then and that's PST, that's Pacific Standard Time. And then for that translates to 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock on the Eastern Standard Time, and then I go into the 12. That's also 12 o'clock on the Central Standard Time. And the Mountain Time, I always get a little bit wonky, so it might even be like 9. I think that's 9 o'clock. No, 11 o'clock on the Mountain Time. So let's see. Yeah, I do think that there's going to have to be more. We're going to have to play a much more, we're going to have a louder voice. We're going to have to be much bold if we're going to survive this, because at times we're not, it feels like we're in a lull. It feels like there's only one person maybe speaking out. The rest of these congressmen are not, they're not really, they haven't really spoken out about it. Now they're starting, okay, maybe I've seen Doug Collins, maybe I've seen Senator McCarthy, but I don't see, it's still not the right thing. And then they don't do a good job of controlling the narratives. And they are also not reassuring that this situation is actually under control. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And if you're around later, there may be another stream later. I may be also trying out some other software. So if you are around for that, I appreciate you guys. And please keep an eye on the community tab and check out your Patreon. That would be helpful. So I'm going to sign off on this one. Also, if you please hit the like button or the unlike button, whatever speaks to you, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn.